Hello, my friends. Welcome back. One slow breath, in and out. Good. Before we begin, is there a cup near you right now? Maybe coffee, maybe tea, maybe something else. Whatever it is, hold it for a moment. Feel the warmth. Because today's story begins with exactly that. That small, quiet moment in the morning when a warm drink wakes you up and says, "The day is starting." Here's a question I want you to carry today. What if that simple drink, that black, bitter liquid, is responsible for the modern world as we know it? What if the scientists, the writers, the philosophers, the revolutionaries couldn't have done what they did without it? Today, we listen to the story of coffee, not just a drink, a quiet revolution that traveled across oceans and centuries and changed the way human beings think and talk and organize. If you're new here, welcome. We tell the stories of remarkable people and things, slowly and clearly, so your English grows while your imagination goes somewhere. If this channel brings you something, please subscribe. Free, 1 second. Thank you. Now, let's follow this drink back to where it began. Our story begins in the highlands of Ethiopia, ancient land, green mountains wrapped in clouds, forests so old they have no names. Somewhere around the 9th century, no one recorded the exact moment. There's a legend about a young goat herder named Kaldi, a boy, maybe 12 or 13, barefoot on a hillside, watching his goats move through the forest. An ordinary day. Warm sun, loud birds, and then his goats eat the red berries from a certain bush, and they won't sleep. They're running in circles, jumping, full of energy, long after the sun has gone down and everything else in the forest has gone quiet. Kaldi picks some berries himself, chews one. Something wakes up inside him. He runs to the nearest monastery, tells the monks what he found. Excited, breathless. The monks are suspicious. They throw the berries into the fire. This strange energy can't be holy, must be something dangerous. But as the berries burn, the fire fills the room with the most extraordinary smell. Rich, dark, warm, complex. The monks pull the roasted berries out, dissolve them in hot water, drink, and they stay awake all night, praying, alert, minds clear. The first cup of coffee in history may have been drunk by monks in a mountain monastery in Ethiopia, by firelight, in a room full of prayer. That's where our story begins. For centuries after Kaldi's goats, coffee stayed in Ethiopia. Raw berries mixed with animal fat, a kind of ancient energy bar, used by healers, used in ritual, not yet a drink, not yet a cup. Then traders and travelers brought the coffee plant across the Red Sea to Yemen. And here, someone did the thing that changes everything in the history of food. They roasted the beans, ground them, dissolved the powder in boiling water. The coffee drink was born in Yemen, probably in the 1400s, in the hands of Sufi monks, for the same reason it started, staying awake through long nights of prayer. They called it kahwa, an Arabic word that once meant wine, and from Yemen it began to move. By the early 1500s, coffee had reached Cairo, Damascus, Baghdad, then Constantinople, the capital of the Ottoman world, the city we now call Istanbul. And here, something that had never existed before was invented. The coffeehouse, the kavahane. A room, not a palace, not a mosque, not a market, just a room. Low cushioned seats, small tables, the smell of coffee, the sound of voices. A place where a merchant could sit next to a scholar, a poet argue with a politician, a student listen to a master, Anyone could come, sit, drink, talk. In a world divided by class and rank and religion, the coffeehouse was radical, a place of equals. You paid for your cup. You took your seat. The world opened. People shared news, discussed philosophy, played chess, read poems aloud, argued about God, the price of grain, the movements of armies, stayed for hours. Before coffeehouses, if ordinary people gathered in public, they went to taverns. Alcohol made conversations louder, shorter, often violent. Coffee made you sharper. It made you want to argue better, think harder, listen more carefully. For the first time, there were places built specifically for sober, wakeful conversation, open to nearly everyone. The Ottoman authorities weren't happy. Inside those walls, people criticized the government, shared forbidden ideas, organized. Sultan Murad IV in the 1600s made drinking coffee in public punishable by death. He walked the streets in disguise, and if he caught someone with a cup, he had them executed. And still, people drank coffee. Then coffee crossed into Europe. There were merchants who smuggled coffee plants out of Yemen when the Ottoman authorities tried to control the supply. Venetian traders brought the first sacks of roasted beans to Italy in the early 1600s. A pope, Clement VIII, was asked by his priests to ban this Muslim drink. He tasted it first, then refused to ban it. "This drink," he reportedly said, "is too good to be left to the unbelievers." Coffee entered Europe with a papal blessing. Coffeehouses opened in Venice, then Oxford, the first English coffeehouse in 1650, then London, where within a few decades there were over 300 operating in the city. And in London, something happened that shaped the modern world. Lloyd's of London, the insurance market, still operating today, began as a coffeehouse. Edward Lloyd's on Tower Street was a gathering place for sailors, merchants, ship owners. Marine insurance was invented in that room. The London Stock Exchange began in Jonathan's Coffee House, where traders met to buy and sell shares. Many of the first English newspapers were essentially reports of what was being said in coffee houses. Conversations turned into print. The Royal Society, the most important scientific institution in British history, held many early meetings in coffee houses. Newton, Wren, Hooke. They met and argued in those rooms. The insurance industry, the stock market, modern journalism, modern science, born or shaped or accelerated in rooms that smelled of coffee. The most dramatic story is the one that happened in Paris. In the cafés of Paris in the mid-1700s, something was building. France was in crisis. A king spending money the country didn't have, people hungry, the gap between rich and poor, a wound that wouldn't close. In the cafés, the intellectuals were talking. Voltaire reportedly drank 50 cups a day. Rousseau wrote in cafés. Diderot planned his encyclopedia, one of the founding documents of the modern world, over coffee with other thinkers. Ideas about liberty, equality, the rights of ordinary people. Born in universities and books, yes, but sharpened and spread in the cafés of Paris. On July 12, 1789, a journalist named Camille Desmoulins stood on a table outside the Café de Foix. He held a coffee cup in one hand and a pistol in the other. He shouted to the crowd, "The time has come. We must act. Today." 2 days later, the people of Paris stormed the Bastille. I'm not saying coffee caused the French Revolution. History is never that simple. But the conversations that made the revolution possible happened in cafés. The ideas that changed the world were sharpened over this dark, bitter drink. Coffee didn't cause history. It created the rooms where history was made. We can't tell the story of coffee without the whole story. And the whole story has a shadow. As coffee spread and became a global commodity, it became a reason for one of the greatest crimes in human history. European powers, Portugal, the Netherlands, France, Britain, planted coffee across their colonies in the Caribbean, Brazil, Indonesia, vast plantations in Haiti, Jamaica, Suriname, worked by enslaved people. The coffee filling the cups of Parisian cafés, where people discuss the rights of man, was grown by people who had no rights, taken from their homes in Africa, working in brutal conditions. Haiti, then called Saint-Domingue, produced more than half the world's coffee in the late 1700s, the most productive colony in the world, built entirely on slavery. And then, the most striking irony in the history of coffee, the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue rose up. In 1791, inspired partly by the same ideas of liberty being discussed in the cafés of Paris, they began the Haitian Revolution, the only successful slave revolt in modern history. In 1804, Haiti became the first black republic in the world. The ideas that coffee helped spread came back to demand justice for the people who grew it. Today, coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world, after oil. More than 2 billion cups drunk every day, grown in over 70 countries. And it's still doing what it always did, creating spaces, physical or virtual, where people gather to think, argue, plan, dream. The startup culture of Silicon Valley, novels written in cafés, social movements, art movements, political conversations happening over coffee still. Something in the drink hasn't changed since those Ethiopian monks pulled the roasted berries from the fire. It wakes you up. It says, pay attention. The world is here. Something is about to happen. This story isn't about coffee. It's about what happens when people have the space and the energy to think. For most of human history, exhaustion was the enemy of ideas. People worked from sunrise to sunset, came home tired, slept. The conversations that might have changed things never happened. No space, no energy, no room. Coffee gave people a few more hours, a little more clarity, a place to sit with a stranger who might have exactly the idea the moment needed. Caldi didn't know what he'd found on that hillside. He was a boy watching his goats. He noticed something. He was curious. He followed it. And that, small, ordinary, persistent curiosity, is what moved everything else. You're learning English. Some days it's slow. Some words won't stick. You understand a sentence, then the next one arrives and the understanding dissolves, like smoke. Coffee didn't change the world in one dramatic moment, one cup at a time, one conversation, one room. Slowly, quietly, persistently. Your English works the same way. Every time you listen, even if you missed words, even if whole sentences slipped past, your brain is doing something. Connections forming, patterns being recognized, the language building itself, quietly, underneath. You don't need to understand everything today. You just need to come back. The monks in that Ethiopian monastery didn't know what they were beginning when they drank that first cup. They showed up. They were curious. They stayed awake. A red berry on an Ethiopian hillside, a boy's curiosity, a monastery fire, a Yemeni cup, an Ottoman coffeehouse, a Parisian café, a revolution against the revolution, 2 billion cups a day. And somewhere in that history, your morning, your hands around something warm, your moment of beginning. Before you go, tell me in the comments, where are you right now? What are you drinking? What part of this story surprised you most? I read every comment. If you enjoyed today's story, a like helps more people find it. And if you're not yet subscribed, please do. Every week, a new story. Every story, a little more English. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and maybe go make yourself something warm. Goodbye for now.